Hello, welcome to Homeopathic Services. My name is Pierre Fontaine. I've been a professional homeopath for nearly 30 years. I do the same intro every single time. And the two books on autism, One Heart, One Mind, that is really about, there's 40 cases in here, fully reversed. And The Language of Autism, my last book, that really explain what autism is truly better than any expert. You read this book, you will know more than any expert out there. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. This book wrote itself. I say I did not read. I did not write this book. It really wrote itself. It's a message for it's a message from above. It explains what autism is. It absolutely does. 95%. You will know more than anybody. And I will demonstrate this in this clip how it is. Because I make the argument here that of what autism is. An actual definition. By the way, my website, homeopathicservices.com. As you can see, this is live and not rehearsed. So, the language of autism explains 95% of what autism is. There's no doubt about it. And I will demonstrate in this clip how we can apply what one can learn in this book and how it applies to therapy and many different other and in many different other ways. Not only does the book gives a history of autism going back to 1300 and most particularly 1799 and on, but it also gives a definition of autism, not an explanation of autism, not a description of autism, but a definition, a two-word definition. Two-word definition is autism is conceptual inability. And we're going to understand this in this clip a little bit broader. What does conceptual inability means? Concept includes what we call instinct. And that is very commonly children on the spectrum or individual adults on the spectrum are born with low weight and problem latching for breastfeeding. It is very, very common because they don't have the concept of feeding. Okay? It's a concept. Feeding is a concept. It's a concept to stay alive. In the same manner, they don't have the concept of joining in a group, joining into mother, joining into father. They don't have that. That's why parents say he looks at me as if I were a thing, as if I were a vase, for example. Yes, because there is no concept of socialization, of coming close. There is no concept of speech. You see? There is no concept that sounds make eventually syllables, and those syllables, you put two syllables together and you have dada or mama. And mama actually refers to somebody. See, there's no concept of connecting the dots. Autism is nothing more than this. Autism is nothing more than this. It is not a receptive issue, for example, therefore. Okay? It is not a receptive issue. They cannot connect the dots. That's it. The reception is all good. But they don't have the concept of putting ma and ma to say mama. No, it has to be taught. So contextually, they could put things, they could put together eventually with repetition. Contextually, that's what therapies do. But how do we can we apply beyond these three fundamental issues, fundamental symptoms of autism? How can we apply that? You see, in other areas. So, for example, a lot of kids take OT or PT, physical therapy, or occupational therapy, physical therapy, because little Johnny cannot catch a ball. It is assumed that it is low muscle tone. It's not muscle tone. It isn't muscle tone. Why is it not muscle tone? Because little Johnny can run around the house back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, without taking a break longer than 5 seconds. Little Johnny can do that all day long. And even in the middle of the night, on top of that, wake up in the middle of the night and do it then again. It is not a physical therapy issue. Catching the ball is a concept. I throw a ball to you, you participate in a game. It doesn't have the concept of game. We can see that as well, because if you give little Johnny a truck, well, he's going to put it on its side and look at the wheel spin. Or line them up. Not going to play boom with the truck, and boom, there's an accident, and the other truck comes and put. No, there's no play. Looking at the wheel spinning, you see? So catching the ball is not going to be resolved with physical therapy. So take that expense out of it, out of the equation. Take the stress of going there, getting on time, this and that, getting prepared and all of that. Take that out. Not needed. Not needed. Therapy just fills a blank. The blank that nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're treating. You see? Because physical therapy is not going to return concept to the child. I'm a professional homeopath. By the grace of God, I was given this message, if you will, and I'm asking you, really, don't do it. There's no need, because physical therapy is not going to return concept. I'm a professional homeopath. Like I said, in my view, concept returns with a homeopathic remedy. That's it. There's nothing that can return concept in that way, so deep into the constitution, so that the child can bloom into a neurotypical child. Nothing can be done without concept, you see? That's why when they learn how to write, when they write an A, I give an example I've given an example on video, but I give the example when they write an A. It's 3 lines, 2 crooked lines and 1 across. And we're all happy that little Johnny has written an A, but little Johnny has not written an A. He's scribbled 3 lines. That's right, they're never quite the same. He doesn't understand. He doesn't have the concept. So, by the same token, when little Johnny cannot catch a ball, it is not because it's not a physical therapy or an occupational therapy that is going to return the catch of the ball. The catch of the ball is a concept. It's the concept of catching the ball, and I throw the ball back to you. It's the game. There's no concept of game. Just like I was saying earlier, there's no concept of socialization. There's no concept of putting ma and ma to make mama that relates to somebody. No, there's no concept of that. You see? And the reason why I say don't do these therapies is because eventually, doing all these therapies, there's one thing that ties most of individual on the spectrum. And that one thing is that eventually, no matter where they are on the spectrum, high or low, whatever you want to use, wherever they are on the spectrum, eventually, every one of them, more or less rapidly, of course, because it's a spectrum, we always have to take that it's more or less all of them will know that globally there is something wrong. There's something wrong with me. These people, I recognize, if they recognize even people, these individuals are asking me to do. They seem to be repeating the same thing, asking me to do something the way they want me to do it, and I don't get it. Eventually, they come to globally know that there's something wrong with them, especially with the more therapies that are piled up. Because everybody is putting little Johnny, you got to catch the ball. So the little Johnny has to catch the ball 20 times and doesn't have the concept of catching it once. So it's repeated and repeated and repeated, and 3 times a week. And then at home, he's asked to say water, and then he's asked to do this. The child is asked to do something over and over again all the time, every single day, 365, and it becomes too much. So globally, they come to know that there's something wrong with them, but they don't know. They don't know, you see. And all these therapies, I might add, they say we're working on this. We're working, but feeding therapy, for example. The child doesn't have concept of feeding for survival, okay? Feeding, if you don't have concept of feeding, imagine imagine you don't have concept of feeding. You're going to do what? You're going to have maybe some hunger pain. So you're going to ask for chicken nugget, let's say, huh? Because chicken nugget is very common. Or a frank or a burger, French fries, right? Those are very common foods for individuals on the spectrum. Now you're not going to ask for more than that because that feeds you. That feeds the pain that you have. That's it. So there's no need for chicken tikka masala, and tomorrow I will have a piece of fish, and the next day I'll have, whatever mom gives me, but it doesn't. One food. You see, there's no need for other foods. You see, with conceptual inability, one can understand basically 70% of autism. And keep in mind, they are not behaviors. They are symptoms. Everything that the child does or an individual on the spectrum does is a symptom of autism, not a behavior. That's why therapy doesn't really achieve much, except then make the child aware that there's something wrong with him or her sooner rather than later. You see? Because eating one food is a symptom. It's a symptom of conceptual inability. I don't have the concept of eating, to enjoy eating. No, I have some anger pain. French fries will take care of that, and that's it. That is all I need. Imagine that. Imagine in your mind being like that. You see? So autism is not a behavioral condition. That is extremely important to understand. And when I say they globally know there's something wrong with them, eventually, they don't know the details. They may not know the details of it. And if they knew the details, then they would do something, but they don't. You see? Autism is not a behavioral issue. Everything that a child on the spectrum displays is a symptom. You see? That will not be fixed with therapy. It can be compensated a little bit with therapy, okay? But it will not be fixed with therapy. Repetition that is contextual repetition, that is what therapy is, will create something. It would palliate, it will create something, but generally without understanding. That's why all kids on the spectrum write essentially the same way. There is a autism handwriting. I've done some videos on that. I'm not going to talk about it today. Because they don't really write. They make something that looks like an A, a B, a C, a D, okay? But they don't really write. They don't really write a letter to, for example, ma, ma, and mama relates to, is a word that relates to somebody who can do this for me. Give and take. No, that isn't there. You see? This example includes the socialization, the speech, and even the eye contact. Okay? That is how simple autism now is, you see, to understand, and by way of understanding it deeply, to be able to prescribe a homeopathic remedy. I am a homeopath, and by the grace of God, like I said, there was given this in my labs, which I talk about in this book once again, The Language of Autism, that will have you understand autism, 95% of it. Conceptual inability is about 70%. Then there's the modus operandi, how they do things, how and why they do things the way they do. That is another 20%, 90%. 5% is what I call the phase. The phase. It's a different way of analyzing that makes you understand, again, 95% of autism. So, again, autism is not a behavioral condition. Autism is not a trauma. Autism is not a toxicity. How could I forget that? How could I forget that? Thank God I have little notes here that I make during the consultation. I scribble a message that I can give through these little video clips. It's not a toxicity. Autism is not toxicity. That will not restore concept. It can improve the child, yes, certainly, because the body of an individual on the spectrum is very chaotic. The physiological processes are very chaotic. So detoxing can help, but it will not restore concept, which is what we want to do. Once we restore concept, we have a neurotypical child. That's it. It's as simple as that, you see. We can take all these symptoms and understand them all now within 2 words. 2 words, you can understand autism. And that is a major breakthrough. And then you can avoid the problems, the repetitive therapies that actually, in the end, create more problem than they solve. Okay? Thank you so very much for listening. The website is homeopathicservices.com. I'm just thrilled. I just can't get uh, enough of the depth of these two words. I see it every day in consultation. I can explain everything. And actually, the book, the 75 symptoms uh, and do note, I say symptom, not behaviors, 75 symptoms of behaviors that I explain in, in the book is. There's no mystery anymore. There's no mystery. There's not autism is no longer this mountain, this mountain of symptom and or behaviors. But I do know now. That's what I used to call them, like everybody else. But they are not. They're symptoms, and we can understand them all. And once we understand them all, then we can really concentrate on what is truly individual in a child, and therefore find a homeopathic remedy that fits this child, and we can absolutely, and I guarantee it now, return to neurotypicality. Return to neurotypicality. Guaranteed. Yeah. That's it. Um, I made it. Oh no, I went over 20 minutes. I had a 20-minute time limit. Made it a little bit over. Again, homeopathicservices.com. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so very much. I'll do more of this next week. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye.